In this presentation, we are going to assume the role of an HR supervisor trying to address the problem of attrition in their company. The name of the company is called TIPO, and we're going to use IBM's Business Analytics tools to gain a deeper insight into the workforce. The tools that we are going to use to help gain this insight are an HR dashboard that is simple and easy to create, which you see here, a survey tool to obtain employee feedback, and a data mining process to help guide us in understanding what might happen in the future. To begin our analysis, we'll start our inspection into the workforce with our HR dashboard. In the top left of our dashboard, you see a bar chart that represents the headcount across our company across 4 different roles. So you can see executive management has about 20 people. There aren't a lot of salespeople at approximately 10, and the bulk of our population is in non-managerial and supervisory type roles. Now, if we're trying to address the problem of attrition, one thing a HR supervisor might ask is, well, across which of these roles do I have attrition happening the most? And if we look at our bar chart on the right, we can start to see that. Here we have the same position types broken out based on how many current employees we have and how many past employees we have. And you can see, based on hovering over the bar chart for sales, roughly 90% of the people have left. Executive management, roughly 70% have left. But in our non-managerial and supervisor roles, we've done a very good job of keeping those employees around, and approximately 60% of them stick around. But this information doesn't tell us anything about why people have left. We don't know why we have a lot more people in sales, we don't know why we've seen a lot of people leave in sales versus why the supervisors are still in our company. To get more into that information, we have created a survey and we have deployed it out to our employee base. As we look at the bottom of our screen here, we can see some of the results from our survey. This is what we call a crosstab. And across the top of it, we have 2 different types of columns. We have current and past employees broken out across different facilities. And then on the left, we have information coming back from our survey. We can see how long people at these different facilities had for a commute on a particular on a particular day. So you have 0 to 30 minutes, 30 to 60 minutes, 60 to 90, and more than 90 minutes. And as we look across this crosstab, we can start to get real insight into our data about why people are leaving. For instance, in the past bucket for facility A, you see that 49 people have left, and for facility B, 40 people have left. So there's definitely a higher trend for people leaving facility A, and then if you look at the current employees, what that's doing to the population, there's only 28 people left at facility A, while 79 have stayed at facility B. That's very intriguing information for an HR manager, because what they might want to do now is figure out why people don't like facility A. And also, this information is broken now into our buckets based on commute time. We didn't have that information previously. This is real feedback coming from our employees through our survey mechanism. If we scroll down our dashboard, we can see more information about what is happening in our workforce. Here at the bottom, we have a table that is comprised of more survey information coupled with information coming out of our predictive analytics tool. And what the highlighting is telling us, of these particular people here, each row represents one person. Based on their feedback and based on our data mining that we've done in our predictive analytics tool, which of these people have a high propensity to leave our company in the future? And this is rated based on this column that is highlighted here. So anybody that has a propensity over 70% will be highlighted in orange, and we're also highlighting people that have the propensity to leave. So if you have a current status and a high propensity, what we're saying is there's an 84% chance this particular row 63, that this particular person will stay. But for the ones that are highlighted in orange, like we said, these are the people that might leave. Now what's intriguing about the setup of this table for an HR manager's perspective is, if these are the people that are going to leave and we have the survey information displayed right next to their name, we might be able to address their concerns directly. So for employee 79, if we look at this feedback column here that says what did we do well and then what can we do better, if we go over to what we can do better column, you can see one thing that this person is asking about is they potentially want more vacation time. That's new. That's good information that we didn't know if we hadn't done this survey. If we look at one of our other employees that might have a propensity to leave, number 77 here, this person's asking for vacation time. So now we have real information that is directly related to these employees, but now that we're seeing an aggregate, we might be able to address this more from a management level and say, well, is there something we should do about our vacation time for our entire populace? Maybe we should poll our sales reps that we saw at the very top and say, is vacation time a concern for you? So by combining predictive analytics and our survey information and displaying it in this dashboard, very quickly and easily, we can get at real information and real insight into our workforce and what's causing them to do certain things. Now that we've seen the results of our survey and data mining process, let's switch over to the survey tool to see how we created the survey and how it integrated with our BI platform. Here we are in our survey authoring tool. A typical question that an HR manager might have is, Well, if I want to create a survey, where do I start or how do I begin? I don't know which questions to ask my employees. So if we go up here to Insert, from Gallery, we're presented with a wizard that will help us in this process. Here we can see 4 different types of gallery items that we can select from. We can choose from a survey fragment, we just have straight raw questions, we can include scripting, or we can do custom HTML layout. For this particular case, we will begin with just survey fragments. When we open it up, we can see the survey fragments that are available to us. If we click on Human Resources, we get a more specific list, and across the top we can see we can do a detailed employee questionnaire, employee exit questionnaire, simple employee, teamwork, or training and development. We could for this one do an exit questionnaire, but we're more concerned about a holistic approach, a more comprehensive approach, so we'll use detailed employee. Here we have another screen, we'll click Insert. And now we can put our name into the dialog box, and what this will do is put TPO in all of the questions that require a company name. TPO's entered. We'll click Next. We'll choose our language. Out of the box, we have some other default languages that we could choose from, but here we'll just choose English. And now the questions will be inserted into our layout. Once the wizard is complete, we can begin to view our different questions. Here in the middle is an overview of all the questions. If we scroll down, you can see we have roughly 33 questions. If we go back up to the top, we can see what some of these questions ask. Are you a permanent employee? Do you want to wear business casual to work? What do you think about teamwork? So like we said, as an HR manager, out of the box, we have a whole suite of questions here to get you up and running. But perhaps some of these questions aren't relevant. For instance, business casual. What if your corporation has to wear uniforms? This one isn't really relevant, so we will remove it. To move it, it's a simple right-click, question 8 on the left. We'll do a right-click, delete, and the question has been removed from our routing. Well now, since we removed question 8, what if we would like to put something else in? As we saw on our HR dashboard, there are some people making comments about vacation. I know off the top of my head that in this survey there are no vacation questions, so we will enter one. Let's click on question 7. We'll go to Insert Question. We will do a multiple response question. We will rename this now question 8. Our question text will be, how much vacation do you want? And then for a response, it's as simple as clicking in this box and we can say 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, sabbatical. Simple as that. So as you saw, very quickly and easily, we removed a question, we added a new question. This new question is part of our routing. When we deploy the survey, the employee will see the new question. So now that we've entered the question in our routing, we want to know what it looks like. We go to View, Question Preview. The authoring tool will update, put a new preview tab, and we can actually see what our question looks like. We can say, how much vacation do you want? 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. But what you see here is this is probably not appropriate for someone to select multiple types of vacation because you don't want 5 days, 10 days, and 15 days. So we'll go back to our design. And over here in our properties window, we have multiple parameters that can be adjusted on how the question works. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, I see for presentation, I can say, oh, I don't want default, which is actually a checkbox. I want a list box. Click list box, go back up to question preview, and we can see our changes being made real time. And here we can select specifically just one row. Also, as an HR manager, sometimes we know that certain questions shouldn't be asked. So if we click on question 4, we see, what age group are you in? This is something that can be sensitive in some workforces. If we scroll back up over here on our properties, you see the ability that you can toggle this question on or off. Is the question required or not? So if we force it on, it will always be asked. But if we force it off, a user has the ability to skip the question and proceed if they don't want to answer it, if it's something that they are sensitive about. This is very handy when you're asking particular types of HR questions. So now that we've seen how easy it is to quickly add, change, and augment questions, let's look at our deployment options. If we click on New Routing, we can see over here on the right, we have several different options for deploying our survey. For the interview mode, we can choose from paper scanning, we can do it over a phone, we can do it locally, like on this computer, we can push it up to the web, or we can do it via paper and manual entry. In this case, we would like to choose web because that's the easiest deployment option for our particular department. By choosing web, we'll be given a URL that we can give to our employees for them to take the survey. It's a very simple process, so let's go see how we can do this. go to Tools, Activate. Once the activation screen has appeared, the HR manager has the ability to select test mode or go live for their deployment. Right now, we're going to choose go live and click activate. And simple as that, we have deployed our survey. Once we have deployed the survey, we can log into our server administrator tool to obtain the survey link if we want to sample the survey ourselves. Click on View Survey Link. Click Copy to Clipboard. Now that we have our URL, we click Close. Go to our new tab. We paste the URL, and just like that, we will be entered into our new survey. This is an information screen. If we click Next, we can see the questions that we created in our authoring tool. Which department do you work for? We work for credit. Click Next. Are you temporary staff? Click Next. And so just like that, an HR administrator can go and sample their own survey and ensure that it's correct. So now we have seen the survey, let's assume that all of our employees have taken the survey and we would like to publish the results into our BI environment. It's a one-click process, and if we move back to our server administrator tool, we can see how this is done. By moving down to the Publish Data link, we click on it, and we are presented with a new Publish Data screen. What is really important here is if we scroll down, we can see how all of our questions are pre-formatted to enter in the BI environment. Some questions are sent over as dimensions and some are sent over as measures. This is very important for the HR manager because the HR manager doesn't have to know a lot about the BI infrastructure and how to configure everything. Simply, the tools communicate, they pre-configure the questions, and then with one click of Publish Data, this information will be pushed off into the BI environment. And here we can see the updates were made successfully. Now that our employees have finished their survey and we have published our results to our BI environment, let's return to our BI dashboard for a refresher on how we can consume the results. Across the top, we have two bar charts, one talking about overall headcount and another one talking about attrition by headcount. We also have a crosstab that includes information from our survey that talks about commute time and how it affects different facilities. And below that, we have a table that includes real feedback from the employees that was handwritten into the survey. We can see how people thought we did well and how people thought we could do better. But what we haven't seen yet is how do we come up with our predictions about which employees are likely to leave our company. And to do that, let's move next to our data mining tool. We are now looking at our data mining desktop. A key point for our HR manager to remember is that we will not be doing any programming. It will all be point, click, drag, and drop. So with that, let's start talking about our stream. Our stream is this collection of nodes that we see on our canvas. As we move through our data mining process, we will input information on the left with these left two nodes. We will process it, we will model it, and then we will view the output and we will move the final information over to our BI environment. So let's talk about our nodes on our left, which is where we pull our source information from. In these two nodes, you can see we have one node that pulls directly from our BI environment, and this has the ability to understand the packages and the metadata that we talked about when we were pushing our survey results over. So we don't need any pre-configuration, we just have to point the node to our BI environment and the information will be pulled in. Below that, we have employee information coming from our HR database, and here all we have to do is configure this location in simple fields as well. Now to combine these two data sets, we use something called a merge node, and this is very similar to merging something on a database, except that you don't need a no custom SQL. You simply open it up, you can view your two different inputs, you can see we're pulling information from our BI environment, we can see the information coming from our employee database, and if you go to the merge tab, you can join information based on how data is ordered, via unique keys, or on a condition. In this particular case, we're going to join on a unique key. If you are savvy with databases, you can also see we can join information on inner joins, outer joins, and partial outer joins. But for this demonstration, we're going to keep it a simple inner join and proceed. If you want to see what that looks like, we have a table node that we can open up, click Edit, and click Run, and this will show us the information that has been combined. So you can see our employee ID on the left. You can see information that's coming from the HR system, and if we scroll to the right, you can see the information coming out of our HR survey. You can see the question, here's what is your length of position, how many hours did you work in a week, and here you can actually see that almost everybody answered it. Here you can see questions about, I clicked over, about the performance review. And you can start to see how easily it is to navigate our information and how easy it was to actually join the information. So for the next step in our data mining process, we're going to move to our auto cluster node. And the auto cluster node is used for segmenting our population into unique groups. By doing this, we can increase the precision when we get to our later step of actually data mining and trying to create a prediction of who is going to leave our company. So let's open the AutoCluster node to see how the tool processed our employees into different buckets. When we open it, we see that there are 3 algorithms selected. What is great from an HR manager's perspective is that the tool automatically selected the best algorithm for the processing. The HR manager didn't need to know how each one of the algorithms worked. It automatically went and did everything for them. So let's click on the k-means algorithm selected here in the middle to see what some of the results look like. When we expand the screen, we have 2 nice charts. On the right, we have a pie chart that shows how the population was broken into the different buckets. You can see the percentages here, 30%, 16, 24, 15, and 13, of the makeup of the different clusters. And on the left, we can see our cluster quality. For this demonstration, our cluster quality is poor, but we can actually improve on that later if we would like to. But we would also like to find out right now are what are the different characteristics about these clusters? What makes them unique? So we click clusters and then change the screen to make it a little bit smaller. We can now see the leading characteristic of each particular cluster. So for cluster 2, the main driver of what put somebody in that cluster was which facility they were at. For cluster 3 and 5, it was what they thought about training, and then from cluster 1, it was about spousal benefit coming from our survey research. Now if we click on each particular column, we can see how these clusters will appear next to each other and how they go about looking at the different columns and how everybody relates to the different buckets. So if I scroll to the right for requested training, we can see that cluster 2, cluster 4, and cluster 1 all thought no, but the other 2 clusters said yes. And if we move down for location, work location, we can see a predominant amount of cluster 4 was in facility A and all the other people were in facility B. So just like that, you can start to see the makeup of different people. What is unique about these people in facility A from cluster 4? Why are they all there? And as we saw previously in our BI dashboard, maybe this is something that we need to research further. This is another indicator that something might be unique at facility A that someone should go ask about. So now that we've seen graphically how this information can be presented to a user, let's click OK, and check to see how this would actually be represented in the data. If we put a table on the palette, I did that by simply clicking table here. If I right click and do run, we see a similar set of data that we saw before, but if we scroll to the right, we can see now a new column has been added, and we can see how each row has been given an assignment. So for row number 1, we can see this person has been given cluster number 2, and then if we scroll down, we can see the different clusters here. So what we will use this data for is when we go onto our predictive mining aspect here later in our stream, we can use that cluster for association and improving our output as we do our predictive mining. For the next step in our data mining process, what we have to do is tell our tool or our stream here, what is the business question that we're trying to ask? And in our case, what we're trying to do is figure out which of our employees are going to leave the company. So to assign this business question to a problem, we can use this type node. When we open it up, on the left you can see all the different columns in our data set coming both from our employee database and merged with our survey research. Now, the question we are trying to ask is in this status column right here. And the 2 parameters or variables that are in the status column are, is an employee a current employee or a past employee? And to make the assignment of saying this is the business question, we apply a label called a target over here on the right. The other columns are also given roles in the business question process. Some are called inputs. This one on the top is called a record ID. This is a unique identifier. Some are actually turned off and they will have no impact on our business question process. But once we have set our target, let's go ahead and click OK and return to our canvas. Once our business question has been set, we want to use a process that will automatically select the best algorithm for determining which employees are going to leave. This is very similar to the auto cluster that we did. So when we open this auto classifier node, we can see several different algorithms selected. And what the computer is going to do is it's going to process through all the different algorithms using our data that we merged earlier, and it's going to find which algorithm is the best at predicting employee attrition. So I've already run this, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and we're going to move to the output, which is this gold nugget, and we're going to view the results. So when I open the gold nugget, you can see that 3 algorithms have been selected for us as the best performing algorithms. They perform at an overall accuracy of 91%. The other algorithms that were selected in the auto classifier node that we just had open were not selected. So here we have C5, C&R tree, and Quest. And again, what's great about this for an HR manager is that the HR manager didn't have to manually go through all of these algorithms and see which performed the best, or they didn't have to know which would be the best one or the most applicable. They just used the auto classifier node, and automatically it went and found what is the best performing algorithm. So let's open the C5 algorithm to see what the output looks like. Double click on it, and you can see some of our cluster results were incorporated in the output here. We double click on the golden nugget again, and you can see here how our model is being driven. And what this is a decision list. And as I expand it, what happens is as an employee walks through the different decision lists, they get assigned into the different buckets of, are they going to be a past employee or a current employee? What's intriguing about this is that we can see facility A, facility B, or facility C, or just overall facility. That's the leading driver of what causes people to leave. So right here, using our predictive analytics tools, we have confirmation of what we saw on our BI dashboard about why people are leaving our company. Facility A is, as you can tell, is on the top of the list, and it's a leading indicator of why people leave, right there. So previously with our BI dashboard, we could kind of guess, but now we have statistical evidence that says, yes, and for a fact, facility A, or excuse me, just the facility bucket in general, is a leading cause of why people leave. And if we open this, we can see different traits of why people leave or stay in the company as you move down this decision tree. And if you move to the next tab, you can view this in a graphical result. So I'll open it up, and you can see at the very top here, at the very top of a tree that we've created, you can see of our employees, 60% have left, or excuse me, the number that have left is 60, representing 45% of the population. And as we walk down the tree, it's similar to what we saw on the model tab. You can see what are the leading causes of why people left. So first reason that why people leave is facility. And if we go back to our left, see facility A, indeed 65% of the people have left there. And what's neat about this graphical information or this graphical layout is that you can see the buckets very clearly of how people leave things. So at facility B, you can see only 30% of the people left, and at facility C, well, there weren't a lot of people there with this in column, but it split evenly across them. Now, if we move back to facility A and we walk down the tree over there, we can further explore the information in the output. So we know a facility has a large impact, and as we saw in our BI dashboard, you can also guess some things based on commuting times. And also, from our survey research, you can see the next leading indicator of why people leave in facility A are people's thoughts about flexible spending on transportation. Over here on the left in node 2, you can see 5 people have left that selected 1 from whatever our survey parameter was, whereas a lot more people were in this bucket on the right. So what's intriguing about this result, that although there's a high percentage leaving on the right, what you see is on node 2 though, 100% of the people left. So as an HR manager, what you would do is you would go back to your survey, you see what this question 1 represents, and you might go and start inquiring of, well, what is this and why is this causing people to leave? So we can see that that person's at facility A, they selected this on their flexible spending transportation option, and pretty categorically, all those people leave the company. That's not what you want to see as an HR manager. I mean, you want to be displayed with this information so you can actually go do good things with it, but it's definitely something that you have to go fix or would like to try and fix. So now that we're satisfied that our algorithm is accurately identifying different buckets of why or who is going to leave our company, let's look to see what that looks like in the result set. We'll click on OK, click OK, click OK, and we'll go back to another table node that we put on our golden nugget and we'll open it up. Click Run. So if we scroll to the right here, we can see the output of what our algorithm has added to our stream. In the second to the last column, you can see that the algorithm has predicted that this top employee, there's a high likelihood that they'll leave, a 73% chance. For the next person, there's an 86% chance that this person will stay. So for an HR manager who doesn't know anything about the algorithms or statistics, this tool has given them, with very high confidence, a predicting mechanism to figure out who might likely leave. And what's great about this is now they can actually go and take an action. They can go up to this person, they can maybe inquire, hey, what are you thinking? What don't you like? What do you like? We already have some of that information from the survey tool, but you can probably go be proactive and find out even more. So without these predictions, you'd be completely guessing about who might likely leave. Now you have evidence of why someone might actually do this. So now that we've seen how we've created this really important information, Let's click OK, and we will see how we can export it back to our BI environment. The export to the BI environment is very much like in the survey tool, where much of the work is done already for the HR analyst. When you open up the output node, what you can see here is there's two parameters that you have to fill in, or two classifications of parameters. You have a connection to the BI environment, and you have an ODBC connection to the database environment. Now, it sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. The connection string to the BI environment is simply a string that says, here's where the information is going. What you don't see on here, and this is what's exciting, is you don't have to configure any of the metadata. All the information is automatically understood to be pre-classified in dimensions and measures. So once you know the URL, you can input it on here, and once you know your database connection, you can input that in as a parameter, click run, and just like that, your information is pushed right into your BI environment, ready to consume and digest, where you can create reports. So as an HR manager, you really don't have to know anything about the infrastructure other than a URL to really get your information out into the hands of people that can use it, whether that be you or anybody else working on the BI dashboard. So with that, we have completed our data mining process. As you saw, it was very simple. It's very easy to do. There was no programming. The HR manager didn't have to know anything about the algorithms. All you had to do is simply drag and drop different nodes on the palette, assign a business question, look at the different results, and then move all your information back into your BI environment. Again, this is something that you don't have to have a programming degree to do or understand. Once you understand the interface and you can move items around, you're up and running. So let's go back to our BI dashboard. For a simple conclusion to how we created our HR dashboard, let's move to our report tool to see the inputs coming off of our survey and our data mining process. If we move to our left and we click on this tab, we can see our sources, and immediately you can see the columns that came directly off of the survey and also the data mining. Here you can see the facility, the drive time that was asked in our survey. You can see different things about position type, education, status. And if we go all the way to the bottom, here you see more benefit offers. But if you go to the bottom, you can see the output from our predictive analytics. So if you want to actually augment something in our report here, so let's just say for case of example, let's remove dry time. And as an HR manager, all you simply have to do is if you want to put drive time in your crosstab is you select drive time, drag it into the rows column on the crosstab. The crosstab will refresh, then you can rerun your report, and you should immediately see the results. If you open it up, simple as that, there it is. Drive time has now been included in our crosstab. So, as you have seen, this dashboard is very easy to create. All the components from the survey and the data mining process were easily able to be incorporated into it. And as an HR manager, you didn't have to have a lot of knowledge about these different tools, but within a very short while, you can be up and running and creating very nice and simple to use dashboards. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.